Good morning, everybody. We will be with you shortly. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Wherever in the world it is you're coming to us from, welcome to DYOR Live here on the DYOR Media Network. My name is Tom, otherwise known as Striking in this great digital media universe. So glad to be hosting another episode of DYOR Live. Here on the Bitcoin Bell, the market open. I don't know what the hell we're going to call this version of the show. It's a market open show giving you the latest information about what to expect for the day for you day traders and other short-term investors and long-term investors too. Normally Pedro is on here right with the morning the morning info, but Pedro, I can't wake him up. But I am more than certain he'll be on here shortly. But anyway, that doesn't stop the news from getting out there. Thanks everyone watching here at the beginning of the show. There's a couple of you on Rumble, a couple of you on YouTube, and 10,000 or so on X. All right, that was a lie. Speaking of X, give me a second here and let me get the X comment machine going here. Let's see. There we go. Well, good morning, everybody. It's been an interesting week for sure. In the Bitcoin market, the week was one big fat consolidation idiot box the whole week until yesterday. Yesterday morning, there's Pedro. Pedro will be on in a minute. Bitcoin. All right, sorry about that. Pedro will be on in a few minutes here. But anyway, Bitcoin just consolidated all week, which sometimes is a good thing. There was a big trade show in Dubai, Token 2049, which many of the market makers and people were at. And not a lot of trading got done. When the market makers are away from their desk, not a lot of markets get made. And Bitcoin stagnated, its volume was down. Then people started to go home. And yesterday, the market started to pump on the last day of the show. Started to come back, started to get some life again. And then today, it's Bitcoin is up again because of the markets reacting to the news from China. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. China is in the news this morning. Because why? Why would China be in the news? Other than every day it's in the news. China blinked. Overnight, China came in and signaled that they would be open to talks on the tariff issue, and not just talks about President Trump's implementation of tariffs against China, but also China lowering tariffs to sell into China. Now, that being said, there's not a lot of products that China needs us to sell to them. I mean, they make everything over there. However, there are a lot of things that do prevent us from doing business well in China, including ownership of companies. Americans are not allowed to own companies in China directly without special permission. And that special permission usually means you're the world's richest man, like Elon Musk, and you get to own your own Tesla company. But everybody else has to share not only their company, their profits, but also their intellectual property with a Chinese partner, which we all know means your stuff is getting ripped off. Right. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. So if we can eliminate our IP theft via this tariff deal, that's big for American companies. trillions and trillions of dollars. That's right. That's right. Let's see where Pedro is in this. Let me just talk with him a second. Anyway, one of the big stories of the morning, then, as you may suspect, is the markets reacted positively to that. Let's see if we can bring this up here and actually view the article and get some excitement. Oh, it's the wrong one. That one. Where is the Pedro feed? No Pedro yet this morning. Anyway, S&P futures rise as China signals openness to trade talks with the U.S. Let's just get right to it. This is a CNBC article. China, it didn't say, all right, we'll be at the table tomorrow at 10. What they said was, we'll evaluate talking to it. And that means that they blinked. And on that note, the headlines here on CNBC are very pertinent to the topic. U.S. retailers scramble to secure China-made Christmas merchandise as tariff uncertainties persist. Now, how many of you think we should buy tons, every family should buy tons and tons and tons of crap from China every year for Christmas? Or should we get one or two quality toys for our kids? Right, we should get one or two quality toys from our kids, not piles and piles and piles of cheap China crap. Remember when toys used to be good and strong and last forever? Yeah, those days are over because all we want is cheap prices from Walmart, so they make it as cheap as possible. Anyway, that's a side note here. Let's talk about the S&P 500 going up. I love it. See, even these knuckleheads here. Which? This one. Picture here says S&P 500 futures rise as China signals openness to trade. And the credit says traders work the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. Come on, editors, you can do better. The S&P futures rose early Friday as investors cheered China's announcement that's evaluating starting talks with the United States. Not up a lot, just 182 points at the time of writing this article. Why don't we go over and see how much it's actually gone up? Bitcoin bounced around on the news this morning. It was declining. Then the news came out and it reversed course. One of the reasons why, and I haven't looked at the NASDAQ price yet today, but I'm going to look at the NQs. Let's see. Well, we're going to have to wait for the open here for the futures markets to get a decent price on it. But the indication is that it's going to be a market going up. One of the problems, though, we have with this isn't just the China tariff talks. It's... Where's that article? All right, I'll just copy it from up here. Sorry, I'm at a temporary screen here. The jobs report, ladies and gentlemen. Jobs. So on one hand, we have the talk of China coming to the table, which arguably is really the only important trade deal out there. So we put together a trade deal with them. Clearly, we're going to be able to put together a trade deal with Japan and the EU and everybody else with that pressure taken off us. The other thing is this jobs report. The jobs report is not expected to be a great thing. As we've heard bad news out of companies laying off people to get ready for tariffs. But those may be companies that should. Let's back up a little bit. When tariffs were announced, the market started to redistribute money. Investors, hedge fund guys took money out of companies that had big tariff risks and exposure, and were searching for companies that did not have tariffs. I just made a big knot with my headphones. Jesus Christ. Really? Usually the knot happens in your pocket, but this happened right here in front of my eyes. My God. Oh, you tasty trade people and your production budgets. Still a knot. Wealth was taken out of companies that had big exposures to China, Amazon, Walmart, that type of stuff, and the money went looking for a new home that didn't have as much exposure. And that was a big thing. It caused the market to sell off, and everybody was like, "Oh, our 401ks, our IRAs, everything. We've lost tons of money because of Trump. Oh, woe is me." Notice the market has largely come back already, but hold on. But other companies started laying people off. They're like, all right, well, this could impact our Christmas sales. This could impact this type, and this. So they said, all right, we're either going to stop hiring, we're going to lay off the sector, we're going to trim every department by 10%, whatever they needed to do. And you've seen those reports on CNBC, on MSNBC Business, on Bloomberg, blah, 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 blah. They're all out there doing that. And other companies are hiring, but they're not making the news. And the article here talks about jobs. It says in March, 233,000 jobs were created. And if you recall, Pedro and I have been skeptical of the jobs report because it was always good under Joe Biden. Everything was great. Everything was great. And every month they set records. And then a couple of months later, they would redo the numbers like, oh, we were off. And it was always down. They were never off by too much. They were never off by good news. They were only off by bad news. And we suspected they were faking the numbers. And as it turns out, they were. They were faking them. Now, I'm not just making that up. It's well documented in the news. They were overly optimistic. And they stopped counting a lot of types of unemployed people. And people seeking jobs and other types of seasonal jobs were counted as full-time jobs. So they tricked us. So this report has been a little sketchy. We expected the Trump administration, it would become better. But anyway, they're calling for fewer jobs to be created this month. There is a guess that the market put out right around the average, which was 152,000 jobs. And they expect only an increase of 133,000. And it's that whole non-farm payroll stuff that we've been talking about, of which I never really understood the non-farm stuff until someone pointed out to me, Pedro, that for most of the history of the U.S., about half the employment was in the agriculture industry. No, I know. All right, let's do a quick shout out to everyone out there. Vincent, thanks for joining us. Vincent coming to us live from Nigeria. Thanks for joining us, Vincent, a loyal viewer. Vincent, we're almost to your goal. If you're still watching, we are almost to your goal. We're raising money for him to buy a laptop. Vincent needs a laptop so he can work in Web3, and he can't afford one, so we are raising money in crypto. If you have any interest in donating, helping out a kid in Nigeria, in the poor part of Nigeria called the Delta, let me know. Vincent can't watch for very long because data is expensive where he lives. And so we're working on the laptop. We're also working on a better internet connection for him so he can use that laptop effectively. But anyway, welcome Vincent to the show. Welcome to everybody watching on Rumble. Do us a favor. I know there's a bunch of you watching. Click that like button. In fact, I'm going to click the like button. YouTube. Click that like button. Give us a comment or two. Ask a question. Normally, Pedro is here giving the technical analysis of the market and some background on what's going on. But he's having issues this morning with, I'm not exactly sure, but I think it's the electricity in his area. I don't think he's in Spain, though. So we'll have a little bit shorter show for you today. Anyway, so the nexus of the issue, what we were talking about, is China good news. China came out with good news, saying it's evaluating the possibility of coming to the table to talk about tariffs. But on the other hand, the jobs report is going to be probably lackluster, which will be a drag on the market, unfortunately. Let's see, and even the great CNBC is telling me that the same thing. Also, the White House via JD Vance. I don't know why JD Vance is doing this, but Russia's war in Ukraine is not going to end anytime soon, says JD. That's also a drag on the market. Here's a good article. L3, level 3. Let's just bring this. Let's bring this one up. Oh, on a side note, I follow the comings and goings with Air Force One. And there's been 2 new Air Force Ones on order for about 10 years. Boeing is hopelessly behind on it. And L3, the defense company, tapped to modify Qatari jet as potential new Air Force One after years of Boeing delays. The U.S. is working with L3 Harris Technologies to modify a used Qatari government jumbo jet, what could be a new presidential plane. Oh my word. The work comes after President Trump earlier this year expressed frustration about delays in modification work from Boeing. Trump struck a deal with Boeing in his first term to retrofit 2 747s to serve as the next Air Force One aircraft. Planes may not be ready after the end of his second term. That's interesting. Boeing's CEO Kelly Ortberg said that the company had been working with Trump's advisor Elon Musk to deliver the plane sooner. This is very interesting. Sorry, we'll get a little side note about this. If you recall, when President Trump took office for his first term, this article isn't quite right. It says that he made the deal. He fixed the deal. There was a deal in place to make 2 new Air Force Ones, and he learned the cost of it, and they were already in cost overrun in 2016. And Trump went crazy, just said, this is ridiculous, we're just going to cancel the contract or whatever. And Boeing agreed to changes in the contract to be firm fixed price. And now we're at 9 years later, and they still haven't delivered the 2 planes. Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. I mean, everyone associated with that project should be fired. Boeing, you're blowing it, and blowing this project might screw up your deal for a new fighter jet. Anyway, sorry for the sidebar there, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, it's that time of the year. ladies and gentlemen. It's that time of the year. The Berkshire investors hope for Buffett's guidance at annual meeting, with tariffs shaking the markets and economy. It's the first, I believe, it's the first year without Charlie after he died last year. He's 94. He's 94 and still making billions. Tens of thousands of shareholders will descend on Omaha, Nebraska this weekend for the annual gathering dubbed Woodstock for Capitalists. This year's meeting marks the 60th anniversary of Buffett leading the company. And, it's his second without his long-term partner, Charlie Munger, who died in late 2023. Anyway, it'll be interesting. Yeah, I saw this coming here. It says shareholders are curious for Buffett to explain his motivation in slashing his longtime Apple stake. After for a whole year he's been selling Apple stock. And I totally agree with that. Apple has been way overvalued. They're generating a lot of cash from their American phone sales and the money they make from their business. But that can only last so long, especially if the price of their phones go up, which they're going to have to go up, or their margins are going to have to be reduced because they're making everything in China. So if there's tariffs, it's going to go up. If they have to move their production to India, that's going to go up. It's a big deal. Now let's not forget, Apple doesn't need to move all of their production out of China if they want to avoid the tariffs. Just the phones they sell to the U.S. They can make phones in China to sell to Indonesia, to sell to Vietnam, to sell to the EU, wherever it is. They just need to set up a different place to build phones for the U.S., and they're talking about doing that in India. We'd rather them do it here in the U.S. Apple. I mean, parents are already buying, $1,400 phones for their kids. They'll pay $1,600 for those phones because the kids have to have them. They have to have an iPhone because they have to be able to see if the person they're talking to gets a blue check, gets the blue or the green bubble. It's funny. Their whole business model, probably, I'll just guess, 30% of the value of Apple has to do with the difference between whether someone has a blue or green bubble, and whether you can use FaceTime with the person. Even though there's 1,000 other apps, including Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, every other app every kid uses can use video conferencing with anyone, with Android, with it doesn't matter whom. But they have to have that Apple one, because people like to see if someone read their message or if they're online. Anyway, so if you're an Apple investor, a small-time Apple investor, and you see that Warren has been selling it, get out. Get out! He's very rarely wrong. Chevron stock falls. I know this is a crypto show, but we've been talking a lot about this stuff because we're kind of changing things up. As lower oil prices set to slow the pace of their stock buybacks. I believe Striking's own mother here invested in Chevron because of their stock buyback program. Oops, sorry, Mom. All right, let's get back to the market here and see what's going to happen. And let's go to the Bitcoin. All right, let's take a look at it. I'm learning how to do this from both Pedro and Crypto Lifer 2. Sam's having a good time in Dubai. For the first time, he went to Dubai to Token 49 and has been given updates on his social media, and it's interesting. I wish Pedro and I were able to go to that. It's not cheap to go across the world like that and do that. If you're a sponsor wanting to sponsor our business, go to our website. There's a partnership and sponsorship page. We can host your event. We can cover an event for you. Whatever you'd like. All right, let's look at the daily chart here first. All right, well, here is a good example of where I was wrong. but maybe not yet wrong. The daily, as you can see from the daily chart, this stuff, Bitcoin's been pumping. If you'd gone long at any point and held on to it in the past week, you would have a winning trade. And I did the same thing. I had a nice winning trade, made about 150 bucks. Still using the demo account. Want to keep that. Want to be clear on that. I'm still learning again. So back to the demo account. And I thought the market was going to go do this and then up. Instead, it decided to keep ripping. It decided to keep ripping. I did think after the crypto conference it was going to come down. As Pedro says, it's got to come down to go up. But it decided to keep ripping, much like it did. It's kind of following a similar pattern here from November. Lots of green candles. So that's a good thing on the daily chart. Let's look at the 4-hour chart. Same thing. Consolidated here during the past week. Pumped yesterday and early evening yesterday, and now the past couple of periods, it's been hanging out. Forming on the 4-hour looks bullish to me. Would like to see down here at the bottom these stochastics kind of come down first on the 4-hour. That would be a better entry position. So we'll see how that tracks out. Even though I might not be right, this is good for me to talk through as I learn to do this better. Similar thing with the 2-hour starting to look good. The stochastics are coming down there. So add 2 hours to that, and the 4-hour will have come down. 1 hour, kind of still doing the same thing. The 1 hour is in a good spot there. If you want to trade the 1-hour chart, probably a good time to do it is right now. It took me a long time to understand that, but people have different trades for different charts. Like, I'm trading the 15-minute chart, I'm trading the hour-long or the 4-hour chart, and they might be opposite. One's long and one's short. And I'm like, I don't get that. But it works. It works. Longer time frames, you tend to hold things longer. All right, let's look at the 15-minute chart. 15-minute chart doing the same thing. Stokes are up, need to come down. Anyway, good morning, DYOR baby. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. Pedro just missed the show this morning. I think he's having some issues that they're having in Spain. Electricity issues, but he's not in Spain. But anyway, DYOR baby, thanks for joining us. I've been on vacation / house sitting down in Florida for a little while now, and so we've been doing an early morning show, market open show. I kind of like the morning show. I really enjoy. First of all, it gets me out of bed. It gets me in front of the trading desk, and 2, we talk about the market before it opens, and we have all day to see if our words mean anything, if the market does what we want. Pedro says he must have power. He's booting up, so he'll be on in a few minutes. I'm DYOR baby. Yes, I'm farther north than you. I'm up in Fernandina Beach. It's been gorgeous. I've been here all month. Been here about 3 weeks now. And it's been gorgeous. Every day it's been between 72 and 80 degrees. It's been sunny. Normally it rains here at some point. It is Florida after all. But it's been great. I've got the world's best tan. I have a rock star tan. Because we have to do this important remote work stuff from the pool and the beach. So you get tan. Mrs. Striking's having a good time. She's been on actual vacation. from her job. While in Canada they have the election. Not much for lobbyists to lobby during an election, but the government's going to be seating itself here soon, and we'll be back at it in Canada. Sure enough. Pedro's coming on here, DYOR Baby, if you want to ask any questions about the market. It's covering China coming to the table on talks. Let's fix this. On tariff talks, which is good news for the economy. But also the jobs report's coming out today in the United States, and it's not expected to be good. And that means that's a drain on the market. So the market right now, before open, is kind of iffy. All the financial news sites are saying, the futures markets it's going to go up because they saw, a 0.5% rise in the overnight stuff. That's not enough to really drive anything. One good market maker move will wipe that out. Let's see where Senor Pedro is. He's coming on. He's coming. Hola, Pedro. I should be able to hear you, Pedro. And I hope we don't do this again. Let's see. Hold on, I gotta reset this.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Good morning, Pedro. Your mic is live.
Hey, good morning. Hey, I am so sorry, guys. I am so sorry. That's not even, there's not even an excuse. Sorry about that. I just, for whatever reason,
Pedro, that's never happened with you. That's a lie. Anyway, for right now, I've got your portrait up there on the screen, Pedro. Good morning, Pedro. What I've been talking about here this morning is the overnight news, and the overnight news came in the form of good news out of China. There was the idea that they're coming to the table. Well, let me rephrase that. They're evaluating coming to the table, which is good news for the market. It could be a play. They could pump us up by saying we're thinking about it, and then tomorrow put the hammer down and say go F yourselves. But that's further in the future. Right now it's good news, but the market didn't react too much to it because there's also the jobs report coming out today, and the jobs report's not expected to be good. So one's good news, one's bad news, which means nothing going on here, and it's Friday too, and as the good weather ramps up across the U.S. And just basic peasants with little education, just sustenance farming. 95, 6, something like that.
As an economy, that situation just is absolutely stunning, right? So I respect that as the people of China, but the CCP, the only reason why they're still in power is literally because they were able to accomplish that. If that goes away, then all of a sudden everybody's like, bro, you coming out as crazy. You don't even acknowledge the Tiananmen Square. And now you're not even putting up. It's like an abusive husband, right? But who brings home a ton of money. If that money ain't coming in, that woman, I mean, you're hurting her, you're hurting the child, but that money comes in, so she feels secure. But once that money stops coming in, yo, she's out. You gotta watch yourself. She might end up. Her name might be Lorena Bobbitt or something. I mean, they don't play. That's human society. How many times have we seen nations and kingdoms topple over because people are hungry again? So it depends. If they better come to the table, they need to work it out because they're people. We already have a lay down generation now that they don't even care now about considering putting China as a world power. They already know that. I mean, this is why the CCP is really pushing hard for tech. They're putting at least $3 trillion, so much cash into developing AI, robotics, and tech that they need another 10 to 15 years straight up. So they come to the table, they play the game. If they play the game right, they may be in the next 100 years the ruling force.
You know what? I read another article that is to me troubling. It was a good article, but in the at least the mid to midterm will be troubling for the Chinese employment market, and that is China now represents a majority of the buyers and installers of robots on assembly lines and in manufacturing centers.
Yep.
They are automating faster than the U.S. has ever automated.
Anybody. Yep. They are skilled.
The Chinese government, specifically the ruling party, has relied on a busy generation of people working hard diligently every day to keep them happy. If your electorate is happy, they're not likely to overthrow you. And they are demonstrating their new robots that can work kind of collectively and autonomously to build things. And just that one factory is potentially eliminating 90% of its assemblers. And the U.S. saw that a long time ago. We saw that happen, and that's a normal thing. But in China, there's a couple 100 million people that are just basic assemblers of stuff. And if any small percentage of them are put out of work, that's a lot of people. And that's a lot of people that won't get other assembly jobs because other people are automating, and they'll have to be retrained, re-educated. And most people don't get retrained and re-educated. You wait for the next generation to come fill that. So there's potentially, with automation, a lot of unemployed people in China. And that's a big deal for them, for the stability of their country. And not only that, but it would be such a drag on their government supporting them. And as you just explained, their government doesn't have extra money to do that. They've invested in a lot of things, and also they're. I mean, they could do it. They'd have to devalue their currency a lot by printing more money. And that would be
They don't care about that.
right.
I mean,
Right.
they do that all the time. I mean, we've gone over here the Japanese yuan, or excuse me, why do I always say that? The Chinese yuan, and the Japanese yen. I always flip those two. I don't know why my brain does that. I understand it, but from a vernacular standpoint, I always flip them. But in the same sense, actually, I don't do that. I'm getting better. All right, anyways, I'm being weird. But on the back end, when you look at that idea that they just do not care. They need the economic growth to keep their populace happy for the next 10 years. And so they will do whatever it takes, whether it's devaluing their dollar, whether it is
Going to war.
Well, they were trying to kind of even do that, but I don't think their young people would jump up and say, let's go to war. I mean, they're going to be fighting with an aged, 40 to 50-year-old. I mean, the younger generation in China, it's literally called the lay down movement. And there are hundreds of millions of kids, well, I say kids, but 20 to 30-year-old men who just are like, what's the point?
Right.
Like, we can't even have real freedom. I mean, I can't sit there. If I want to, like you said at purpose, I think it was I don't know if it was, I forget when it was, but you said if somebody who wants to be a rocket engineer, but he's really good at financial calculations, well, imagine telling Jack, hey, Jack, I don't care you want to be a rocket scientist. America is saying that you need to be a financial analyst because you're good at crunching numbers, and that actually produces more for the United States. So we don't care about what you want. Your individual rights are now squashed, and you need to go and become a financial analyst.
Right.
Like, you talk about taking the wind out of a kid who wants to do something, and it's like, wait. I think I'd be greater here. Now he's gonna sit there and go, all right, or they'll sit there and say, this is the only field you can be at because your aptitude is for this. And all of a sudden, it's like, and we already saw what that did with China, or excuse me, communist Russia, right? I mean, you just saw just the innovation just go boom, level up, and just dropped, So this is why they need AI. This is why they need the robotic system that they're trying to build, because they have a 1.4 billion. They have 1 billion. What is it? Their population is 1.4 billion people. Yeah, that's so hard for me. I don't know why. They are literally 4 times. What is it? 4.1. I think it's 4.1 or 4.2 times larger as a workforce than America is. Like from a population standpoint, we are 300 plus million. They are 1.4 billion. The people who are not contributing to the society are the ones who are the most valuable. And they have just given up. There's this huge movement. I think it's the term is pretty much in America, it's called the lay down movement or the give up movement. And this is the strongest, the most vital group of people that, I mean, any nation, it doesn't matter who you are, rely on that 20 to 40-year-old just hustle, that growth. That is the prime time. Those are the people who go to war. Those are the people who create innovation and new technologies. And those are the people who've just kind of said, after what happened with Jack Ma last year.
Yeah.
And hey, you
Who?
talk trash about us.
Right. Who?
Exactly. Yeah. China, and like I said, they've got to do whatever they can until they can build a robotic army and create a system where they can stay in power. But if they do not, this bro, like in America, how there needs to be is 1 million people in America to come together to overthrow us and the way we live. That's like 0.3% of the people in this country to come together and get mad enough where they could actually overthrow a nation.
Yeah.
Like,
well, we did it here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, boom. It's just one of those things. It's just, boom. We can get mad and boom. That's it. And you think about 1 million people That's like 50,000 people in every state. Imagine a 50,000 person army coming through your state, taking things out.
Or just
That's
disrupting
crazy.
just all you gotta do is disrupt the food chain, and
Yeah,
that's it. I mean,
that's it.
just send a couple of guys to each grocery store, shoot them up, and we're talking. If China were to revolutionize the things, we're not talking about U.S.
Yeah.
here, you crazy people.
Yeah. I'm using that as an example.
Right.
But I mean, but here's the thing: in China, you don't, and there are. I'm not talking. There are millions. I mean, probably I think the statistic that I wrote was, I think it was 8 to 10% of their young people have just given up. That's huge. Like, you don't understand it. With a group of 1.4, and the majority of their people, you know what I'm saying, are an older. They're an older generation. Remember, they had a one child populate, or one child rule for decades. And now, like, they've got a young group of people and a lot of older people.
And that young group of people is mostly men.
Yeah, there you go. And mostly men. So, and they've given up. I mean, your prospects of getting married, owning a house, is worse there than it is here in America.
As a background for some of our viewers, for a long time, China had a one-child-only policy, and many families in China viewed women as second class because they didn't produce as much on the farm. They were not as valuable to the family, and so I'm just going to come out and say it inappropriately, but they would determine the sex of the baby and choose to go forward or not with the pregnancy based on that. And so they ended up with a large percentage of men. You know, as we all know, humans generate about half women and half men. And they ended up with a large percentage of men. And it's that generation is moving through the system and is unhappy. You know what, Pedro, it's a good thing you mentioned that. I remember watching a documentary on that a while ago about how women were taking advantage of so many men being out there by charging to go on dates. They would, and they'd be like, "Oh, you want to take me out to dinner? You know, give me 7,000 yuan, and pay for my dinner, and pick me up in a nice car, and all this type of stuff." And you know, the idea was that, hey, there's 20 guys that want to take me out right now, and 15 of them will say, "Sure, I'll pay you to do that." Very, very interesting. Anyway, welcome everyone joining us on our various outputs here on Rumble, on YouTube, and X. Thanks for doing this. If you've got any comments, Dar Baby was in the house for a little while here. Pedro, he was the first guy that noticed that you were missing.
Oh, man.
And then when I accidentally turned your mic off for a minute, he was like, hey, bring Pedro back on.
Does he want me to go over the market? What's up?
No, but I do. I'd like I'd like you to give us the call, not the call, but what's going to happen today in Bitcoin and the Nasdaq. And while you're starting that, I'm going to get a new coffee. I'll be right back.
Absolutely. All right, guys. So yesterday, I was a bit off. I thought we were going to have again, because there were quite a few news sources, but a lot of the stuff was actually kind of good. Within the stock market, but then again there was negative news that also, like, that, what's that thing, seesawed the market quite a bit within the stock market. But Bitcoin, on the other hand, which had a great day yesterday. I mean, look at the thing. It said, hey, we going up yet today. So it was quite. I wasn't expecting. I was actually expecting more of a just subtle back and forth as we saw it. So it definitely pushed up stronger. Now, granted, there's been some good news with Bitcoin, but from a trading standpoint, this baby's moving up. Again, let me talk about this. My long-term gauge of looking at a market is seeing the 50 and the 89 cross, right? So right around here, this is when you really started hearing me change my analysis of the market, when we saw the 50, which is the gray line right here, and the 89 coming together, right? And so when I started seeing that, I said, oh, I'm expecting this market to go down. Okay, now let's reverse it. And you can see here that the 89, i.e. the 100-day period moving average, or the 89-day period moving average, and the 50-day period moving average, they're coming together. And that 50 is pointed up, and that 89 is pointed down. You can see this right here. And so for me, I had to change. I'm having to change once I saw price really push up above these two moving averages, which pretty much happened last week on the 25th ish. I need to change my bias in this market. So I'm bullish short term and bullish long term right now. So short term I'm bullish, long term, whereas let's call it midterm bearish, because I thought we were going to come all the way down to our lower levels. And my hypothesis was literally because we're seeing a sell off in the market, and the real market lows that need to kind of come back down to is that was the NASDAQ, being that it needed to sell off on the NASDAQ to come down to some lower levels that we'd seen kind of fluff put into the market. And that was these lower levels down here at 10,000 area, which was the November of 2022-ish area. This right here, December, November area, these were certain junction points where certain laws were put into place into the stock market. And let's just say overall with the economy of America, which we saw it go from 10,000 after COVID to what we currently see right now. And so I said, it's got to come down to those levels simply because that's where the where real buyers are sitting, right? Where a lot of big buyers. I think this area is where Warren Buffett is sitting, right? Remember, the man is still sitting on $300+ billion to deploy into the stock market or some form of asset appreciation when it goes cheap, because remember, he's a value investor. So that's, I think he sees this area as an area of buying. So I thought we were coming down here, but this market again is showing some strong resilience in its movement up. And so now the fact that China is coming to the table to talk, the fact is that we're seeing the rest of the world, and we talked about this at the beginning of the year, right? The whole entire play with the S&P 500, with the dollar, with crude oil, with gold, right? I talked about how gold's going to hit a certain point, right? That 60. Or excuse me, the 33,000, or excuse me, not 33,000. One day it'll be at 33,000, but I mean that's if we keep having the inflation that we do. But as of today, or I meant this year, was that the market would get down to about 3,300, and we actually surpassed that to about 3,500, and now we're kind of selling off and kind of seeing what's going to happen if the market and economy kind of get going again with China coming to the table, a lot of the rest of the world saying, you know what, we're gonna have reciprocal tariffs with you guys, we're gonna stop overcharging you, and in addition to this, also is predicated on Trump. Now, I want to bring this up because I've heard, I was listening to the Mauro Naval show, and Mauro Naval was talking about a certain couple of things, but one of the things I heard somebody say, and I thought this was really interesting with China, is that China is, we talked about this earlier, they need to actually keep things, they need to save face. If they don't save face or keep face or show face, there's certain things, right, like show off, it is huge for them. And the fact is that China is sitting there saying, you know what, we're going to come to the table, we're going to see, you know, and the other part behind it is, you know, a lot of the left media and the right media is not even really talking about this as well, that they're literally delegates literally coming to the White House. There's pictures of them. There's been pictures taken of them coming into the White House, and nobody is really talking about that. And and the part that blows me away is that shows you how much power China has over the media. China has so much power over the media that it literally transcends truth. They will not, I mean, and so that's a crazy thing. You're like, well, how do they do that? They buy stock. They can buy stock, and then they can dump that stock and destroy a network. That's why if ever...
That's a good point, although they would have to break a lot of laws to do it. Because
they
there
don't
are
care about breaking laws.
I know, but if you're gonna buy enough of a media company, they're all public. You have to file. And if there's a U.S. company fronting that for the Chinese, and they get caught, those guys literally will go to jail. So it would have to be a firm that their only thing they do is represent China, and that would. It probably happens, but it's a big risk for an American citizen.
It is individual companies in China that are not state-ran, they're independent, that bought China media stock, or not China, but that has bought U.S. media stock. Yeah, U.S. media stocks. Just like we know that. And I know people don't really like Joe Rogan, but the man does quote real statistics that back up, and he goes, you can go find this stuff out. And I was shocked to find out that, anyways, it doesn't even matter. I'm putting on my tinfoil. Let's go back to the market, because this is what's really...
Well, hold on, Pedro. Let's just break in with breaking news. I've been talking about the jobs report, and it did exactly the opposite of what I expected. Oops, I turned you off instead of the... bring up my screen. The U.S. added 177,000 jobs, topping forecasts. Last month it was 233,000 jobs. They expected it to be at average or less than average. Average is 152,000 a month. They expected it to be 133,000, and it comes in at 177,000. And the news just came out within the past 5 minutes, and
this is it right here.
Didn't happen to see the market expected, since Bitcoin's been following the S&P 500 and NASDAQ. Expected Bitcoin to jump negative on that. It made a little beep in the chart, and that was, let's go to the 1 minute chart here and see if anything happened. No, nothing happened. There was when the news was released, there was a small volume pump and immediately sold off. And so nothing. The two things of good news this morning, and the market doesn't even move, and that signals to me today that people are sitting today out.
Well, they're taking profit. It's on Friday. Now, if we're going to see the move, we'll probably see it on Monday. We'll probably see it go down on Monday, Sunday to Monday first, where they put their positions in, and then and by mid Tuesday, we'll see the market really start to rebound and push up. This is where we're really going, if it's going to have real effect. But here's the question: that with all of the government layoffs, with all of the I pray to God that we're not going to see job manufacturing. Let me. How do I phrase this? I hope we don't see what we saw in Biden's period, where we know that a lot of those jobs were fake jobs. I mean, they were jobs, but they were either government sector jobs or other sector jobs that were relying on those government sector jobs, right? Adjacent government jobs. And I know it sounds weird, but it's like there are a lot of subcontractors and contractors, as well as businesses that hire based off of other people who were employed by the government. So, and there's a whole entire industry, and that is not accounted for in a lot of these job reports. And that's what frustrates me, right, is the trickle down effect that we talked about. When you talking about how when you started your manufacturing business, and then the whole entire area, right, picked up.
Yeah.
Not just your
just from my small little company. It was a big deal.
Yes. Yeah. And so that idea behind it is really important to see. And I hope we're not going to see that here. I was really hoping that we could really see a real job growth. like real. So I need to jump into that, those statistics deeper and see what's actually happening. But like on an intrinsic level, I'm a little skeptical. like I'm like, wait, like wow, how is that really plausible? Like, but maybe those group of people who got laid off in the government, or maybe it hasn't accounted for. I think they have an 8-month period. Well, how long is it that they're still employed? That Doge laid off
to the end of September.
Okay.
It's the fiscal year.
So,
it's a government fiscal year that they're. That wasn't the layoffs. That was the people that they said, hey, we're gonna entice you to leave voluntarily by you can leave now and we'll keep paying you, so you can either F off until the end of September and still get your salary, and then you're gone, no strings attached, or you can stay on and risk getting laid off. And I think a couple 100,000 people took the voluntary layoff, and said, yeah, I'm going to go get another job, double up my pay for a little while. Or they just said, I'm going to do what Striking's doing and go chill in Florida for a month. And stuff like that. Although I haven't seen anyone here doing that. So, but anyway, let's just take a quick break in the conversation. Chris from Manchester. Stream Car here. Thanks for joining us, Chris. Really appreciate it. Yes, he's joining us on the X feed. Thank you very much for bringing us a viewer over there. Thanks, Chris, for I hope this morning time zone or time slot will work for you. Pedro and I are going to do this periodically, at least the rest of this week, because this is the last day of the week, and the first couple of days of next week before I go back north. But thanks for joining us, everybody. Thanks everyone on Rumble. Pedro, while I was looking at Bloomberg here, I'm going to bring my screen up here. That's not the screen. This screen. Yay. It says Harvard is going to lose its tax-exempt status. In the battle against the administration, Trump said, we don't want you to do this DEI crap anymore. In fact, you can't. I made it illegal for any organization that takes federal funds. Harvard said, hey, we're wealthy and have lots of lawyers as alumni. We're just going to sue you. And Trump said, all right, well, it seems that you're doing this for political reasons, so you can't have tax-exempt status being a political organization. And Harvard pays educational institutions on their endowment funds only need to pay about 1% to 2% of their the profits that they make on their investments in tax. If they lose their status, they go back to the 25% level or whatever.
I thought it was more than that.
Because
they make billions of dollars.
It's not the same as our capital gains. It's still an educational rate, but there's a rate for for-profit institutions, because there are plenty of for-profit colleges and universities, and there's a rate for nonprofits. And Harvard's going to lose its nonprofit status. I'm sure they'll sue, and so they'll get some Democrat judge to say the president doesn't have the power to do this type of stuff. But anyway, they're going that way. And in times like this, obviously freedom of speech rules. You guys be able to say whatever you want to say, whenever you want to say. But if you're going to take our money, our tax money, and then turn around and use that tax money, either directly or indirectly, to do things that the taxpayers don't support. We're not saying that you support. If the strings that come with the tax money that we give you say, you need to do nonpartisan stuff with this money, or not do nonpartisan stuff, because by taking this money, you don't have to fund the stuff you're going to do. You can't turn around and then use that for partisan stuff. You just can't. I don't care which side of the fence you go on, whether you're this guy or that guy, this president, that president. If you're going to say we're nonpartisan, you got to be nonpartisan. Mrs. Striking does that. Her business is a nonpartisan business, and so she has to act in a manner that is actually nonpartisan. When she has a panel discussion about something, she has to get representatives from more than one political side, so that she retains nonpartisanship. And if one person has to do it just because that's the rule of the game, then the university should do it too. I'm sorry I'm going on long on a topic that's not related to the morning open, but I thought it was a very interesting thing. And the people at Harvard, obviously it's a great organization, all this type of stuff. But I think it's 36% of Harvard students now are from foreign countries. And meanwhile, plenty of Americans want to go to Harvard. And they're like, oh, it's, the multicultural DEI stuff and all that. It's like, no, how about let more Americans get into one of our best universities? How about that?
Is it really one of our best universities now? I mean, I was listening to a guy.
That's totally arguable as far as skills, what you learn there. But the important part of what you learn at Harvard is you're in the club. That is a club that once you're in, and people that graduate from Harvard rise to positions of power in companies, in government, in all sorts of things. And it's very important.
Where they went to school.
And that networking you do, arguably the people that meet these people that are international become friends, your roommates from Korea or your roommates from China or whatever, build international relations too. And that's a good thing. But the important part is it's an American institution. It's not a school of international relations. It's a school that's been around since the 1700s or whatever to educate Americans. And I just don't agree with the not letting other Americans in. If you have if they had unlimited enrollment, they'd bring in everyone who qualifies, fine. But when they say, sorry, hardworking student from Connecticut, we're bringing someone from Hangzhou province instead, that's not right.
Well, I think just the idea of where we're seeing the trend, and I think again, who one of the largest, and I hate to say this, one of the largest donors are to all of our Ivy League schools?
Yeah, China.
Huge amount of money goes to them.
I know.
Through China, and you're trying to tell me if I am the president of Harvard, I forget what are they called? They're not called presidents. I'm not familiar with academia and that in their.
I think the person in charge of Harvard is the president.
Is it called the president?
I think they are, because they were. I think during the hearings that they had, and then they fired that lady who was the president. I think it is. Well, whatever their name is, the commandant, the president, chief.
I need to find out. The reason why I'm saying this is just simply because when you look at that, there's so much money that is literally placed in. If I had to sit there and go, okay, a quarter or 20% of the money that I make from is one person, that's a huge amount. I mean, that's the difference between, putting teachers, even 10% from one donor is a huge amount. And that amount of money goes pretty far when you're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. If they're bringing in $1 billion a year, that idea behind it, these are arbitrary numbers, I don't know the exact numbers, but it's enough to where they have a huge amount of money. You got $50+ billion coming in off of $50 billion they're able to make money on. Actually, you know what, instead of me trying to get these numbers, I'll just look them up right here. This is actually a better thing instead of sitting there and being like blah blah blah. Boom.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the May 2nd edition of the Bitcoin Bell here. It's Pedro and I doing a morning show talking about what's coming up during the day. I actually enjoy this time slot as much as it's difficult for me to get out of bed at this time. And then when I go to Chicago, it'll be an hour earlier. I enjoy this time slot and getting to talk about what the market's going to do and then watch it happen or not during the day. But anyway, thanks everybody that's watching us. Normally we're here at 12:30 daily with our DYOR live show talking about the markets. and endlessly talking about Trump, Biden, Elizabeth Warren, China. And we switched it up to do a couple of morning shows. And so thanks to everyone who came along with us and are watching us. What'd you find there, Pedro?
And how much? How do you spell endowment? Endowment. There it goes. Boom. I tell you, dude. Once they created that thing called spell check, or
it just ruined my ability to think about words. And then when an app doesn't work,
I could never.
When an app doesn't work, it doesn't have the spell check, and you look at what you wrote, and you're like, oh my god.
Not even that, dude. I never could write, like, just straight up, dude. I mean, I remember I think it was in 10th grade or 11th grade when I could start to really speak okay, like not in a very, in a way that was like coherent. Like I thought, like because I do it now where I'm thinking like 4 or 5 steps and literally my words get jumbled.
I've heard it.
Do it multiple times. Or I'll flip words. Literally, if it's saying endowment, it'll say like, Dow. I meant like I'll flip it.
I've heard them all, and I put them on a list.
Yeah, oh, man. The reels are gonna be great, right? Like, back you're like, listen to this. These are the words of Pedro. But the reason why I'm saying that is, once they came out with a lot of the stuff on the computers and stuff, I'm like, how do you spell this? How do you say it? What's the right grammar? There you go, right? What is the right grammar of the structure of the sentence? And grammar. There's another one. There you go. But once I started learning, I was able to sit there and really see it and then apply it. And so my writing got a lot better. Obviously, my vocabulary increased dramatically. And I remember in the military, sitting back at night reading the thesaurus and dictionary. I remember I had a friend of mine. I was sitting there. He came in. He's like, "What are you doing? Let's go out," because we were in Honolulu, and he's like, "Let's go." And I was like, "Wait! I need to take about 20 minutes." He goes, "What's up?" So I was like, "I just gotta go do something." So he comes in, and later, 20 minutes, he pops in. He goes, "What's up? Let's go party." And I go, "All right, cool." He goes, "What were you doing?" And I go, I'm reading this." He goes, "It's the dictionary and the thesaurus. Why are you doing that?" And I go, "Well, I don't really have a great vocabulary, and I have a lot of things in my head, and I don't know how to communicate them right." And he goes, "Yeah, we all know that. Come on, right?" And then you're like, "We know you're smart, but you just have a hard time talking about it." I used to be up on the command where we'd be driving the ship, and I remember you'd have the officer, and then you'd have the bosuns, or they don't call him bosun. Yeah, I think he was a quartermaster, but he was like the head quartermaster. This is old like Coast Guard stuff. They're now called bosun's mates. Everybody, quartermaster and bosuns, are now together as one, and or at least that's what it was when I left. And so what was so interesting is we'd be up there, and these guys would be talking, and I would say these things, and they'd be like, "What are you trying to say?" Like, and so there was this one guy. His name was I want to be careful in case ever in the future we get really, really big. I don't want to name his name. But this guy, great guy, great guy. I remember I said, well, we were talking about this situation, what was happening, and some politics stuff. And so I knew the format and the whole entire arguments, but I didn't know how to elucidate on it in a way where I could really get people to understand what I was trying to say. And so I just gave them pictures. I said, "It's like this, and this." And the guy and the officer, who was at the time he was a butter bar, he's an 01. He just come out and he goes, "What are you talking about, Garcia?" And then I looked at this BM1 and I said, "Bro, you've been around me." He goes, "Yeah." And I go, "It's this, and this." And he goes, "Ah." So he takes about 3 minutes to explain what I explained. And he goes, "There's no way Garcia meant that." And I go, "Yeah, it is. I just don't know how to really say it." And so again, all that to say, I'm glad that we have spell check and thinking implicitly. So let's go back to what we were saying, because I know this is Friday and I'm all over the place right now, so forgive me. All right, so let's check out Harvard, because we were talking about the Harvard endowment. As of June 30th, 2024, sucks that you didn't. So yeah, I was like, the Harvard endowment was valued at 53 billion. So I knew it was around 50 billion, making it the largest academic endowment in the world. In the fiscal year of 2020, Harvard Management Company reported 9.6% return on endowment investment, which translates to $4.5 billion in investment gains. However, Harvard distributed $2.4 billion from the endowment to fund the operating budget. Endowment earnings help cover the significant portion of Harvard expenses, including scholarships, academic programs, facility salaries, and campus maintenance. Let me know if there you go. So there you go. Also, I would love to ask it, how much does the CPP, the CCP, the CPP, whatever. The CCP, how much do they actually, how much do they give? But I doubt it. He'll tell me. We'll see what's up. How much does the CCP give to Harvard or that'll probably individual companies based out of there we go. Boom, here we are. It's 6 o'clock. Market is looking, as this is doing that. Chinese companies and individual. Harvard has received funding from major Chinese companies and individuals. Harvard University has received significant funding from foreign sources, including China, while exact figures for direct donations from the Chinese Communist Party are not publicly available. Harvard has received substantial contributions. Probably should put on my glasses. Dude, but here's the thing. Yeah, here's the thing, though, and I think this is so dope, because I've been wearing those special glasses that I've been talking to you about.
Yeah.
Dog, I'm away from my computer probably dude, those special glasses are kicking. Dude, they're helping my eyes out so much. One day you'll see me. I've worn them on here before with the ones with the little holes in it.
Yeah.
The black ones. Bro, I cannot believe, dude. They're getting stronger. They're getting better. And I'm
getting them.
I'm telling you, dude, like you can see, like I'm a lot, but normally I've got to be like, come on. But I'm like reading it fairly decent. So without them. Let's go back to that. Substantial contributions from China companies and individuals. Chinese companies and individual. Harvard has received funding from major corporations and philanthropists. For example, the Tencent Holding, Alibaba Group, and the Chinese firm have, and we all know what happened with Alibaba. Jack Ma. Right, and then Jack Ma obviously is now a supporter of the CCP and what they do, and he was not happy with them. I don't know, what was that, like 3 years ago? So, anyways, that's funny. But you can see here, Harvard China Fund, established in the 2006. This fund supports research and academic exchange between Harvard and China, which I think right now, and the way things are happening, is probably one of the most worst things that should be given. We're literally giving away intellectual properties, and they fund MIT. I mean, you have Harvard and MIT in the same city.
Right. Like just down the street from each other.
Literally, like hop, skip, and jump. Hey, well, not say hop, skip, and jump, but enough to where you get a good little walk. But you can go on a walk. You know, I'm like, boom, we're gonna go do it. And so back in the day when I was door knocking in Comcast, dog, I during spring or not during the beginning of the year, a lot of the door knockers go out there and sell internet at $150 to $120 a pop. And so we would go over there, bro, and it was like shooting fish in a barrel, bro. Dog, it was like I remember just being like, hey, you want internet? Nope. You want internet? Nope. You got internet? Yeah, no, I don't. Come set me up. All right, cool. $150. 20 minutes. Boom. Next. Like we were getting 2 to 3 deals an hour easily for like 2 days, bro. Like you would just come up. You know.
The last time I was there, I went there with
Jack?
Striking at no.
Oh.
Yeah, with my daughter. I went there.
Okay.
That one of those main streets there, I can't remember the name of it, was probably a majority of the food restaurants were Chinese takeout or Asian takeout of some sort. And most of the people I saw walking around, I'm like, what am I, in San Francisco or Vancouver or something? What's going on here?
No, absolutely.
And it was quite surprising. And now seeing that with all this information coming out, how they've been, essentially taking money, and they get big money from these groups, and they charge more to foreign students. I get it, but it's not right. Anyway, time to move on that topic. Pedro, there was another topic here that I went to Bloomberg here just to talk about. I'm not on it now, but that you and I have talked a lot about how you've kind of the old fuck around and find out thing.
Give me 1 second. Yeah,
sure.
Give me 1 second. Let me. I actually realized I didn't ever finish off the Bitcoin because I got distracted. I'm totally.
Oh, you're right. Good point.
Dog, I literally didn't take because I didn't. My morning was thrown off a little. I was talking to a friend of mine who basically buried some hat. Anyways, again,
right.
All I'm saying is that I'm kind of all over the place ADD, so forgive me. And this is like my ADD's kicking in hard today. So, all right. You can see here that the market is going up slowly. And I always talk about the market goes up first. I'm more adamant to sit there and say it's during the open, it's going to sell off. And so right now we're setting up the actual Bitcoin sell-off here. As you guys can see, we're going up here, but there's not a lot of demand wicks as we're moving up. So I'm apt to sit there and say we should see it come back down to that 96.7 area. Around here, so that's at 96,700 area. Expected to see a nice little pullback here as we're setting things up for the morning, and then from there, if it continues up and we see volume step in, then the next spot would be these areas right here, which are they are the news times, and so we should see price come back down to those news areas.
What time frame chart do you have though?
This is the 15-minute. So, yeah, if we're gonna see that, this is where the areas. And you can see here that at 8:30 we saw a huge volume spike come in. You can see right here compared to the rest of the day, right? Like, boom. Come on, dog. Still refuse. I almost bought it when they were selling this for 80% off during Christmas because it was such a good deal. I was like, oh man, I want to get it. And then I said, no, I'm not. You're not gonna get me. But yeah, they almost did, dog. They almost got me. I almost bought them because it was so cheap. I was like, I get the full thing. I said if they make it 90, then I'll do it. Because I was just like,
you have your limits.
I don't know. I'm not being stubborn, but I'm just like, nah, dog. Like y'all did us dirty. Now you want us to bring us back because y'all are earning because nobody wants to trade the market because half of your business comes from trading, and people aren't trading through. Anyways, jumping back here. So ADD again. Let's call it ADD Friday is what we're gonna call it. So you can see we're coming down. We're putting in the market. We're putting in the this nice little baby here coming down here. So I like this area right here. Potentially you can see a nice little play here. I like it.
So, but right. For Friday today, do you expect people to take profits today and to see a larger sell-off?
Yeah, we should. I mean, we've seen the market really kind of push up quite a bit since Monday. This is Monday right here. It opened up, went down first, we consolidate, and then yes, it really pushed for profit. And so that's a good little portion here. Again, I can't get behind this push up. But I'm becoming bullish midterm where I was bearish midterm here, and so we're gonna see. We're going up first thing in the month, and that's not good. I always talk about, I don't want to see it to go up first thing in the month. I want to see it go down. Let's go down first, pick up buyers, and then we push up at the end of the month, right? Monday here, you can see Monday, Sunday, we went down. Monday, we consolidated or went up a little, came back down again, and then we pushed up, right? So we should see some, and again, that's not indicative of what we're going to maybe see on the weekend. The weekend is a little bit different, okay? Because it's more Asia trading. Our systems, like the S&P 500, stops on Friday afternoon, and then the banksters / bank guys who are gangsters go away to the
Hamptons.
Shout out to George, to the Hamptons and other places. It's supposed to be a great weekend, nice little weather, so they're not going to be looking at the market. They'll come back to it on Monday. But Asia is, they're grinders. You want to learn how to grind, go to Asia. Go to China and watch those guys grind.
One of my friends went to go work at his Japanese satellite office. He worked for a Japanese company, and he was an automotive supplier company, and he said I had to go work there for a year on a project or whatever it was.
Afternoons off.
And he's like, these motherfuckers. He said they don't leave until the boss leaves.
Yeah.
And he said I would just leave. And they're like, you can't do that. And they're like, well, my contract doesn't say that. And they're like, well, that's what we do here. And it made it, for him to leave, he said, it made it uncomfortable for the other people to say, why does that guy get to leave? And they said, well, that's how we work in the U.S. And they said, well, you don't work as well as we do here. And then he said, yes, we do. In fact, our productivity is now greater than yours because you're getting less productivity out of being subservient to it. This is different. This is different than a lot of people just grinding it intentionally, like day traders. So they're individually grinding it and doing a lot. These are people that are like just stuck, and because they're like, we got to work because the boss is still here. And if the boss is, God forbid, the boss is single and has no kids, because that's what they said. The worst job you can have is to work for a boss that's single and has no kids, because they don't care if they don't need to go home. They don't need to go home and see the kids home from school. They're like, oh, we'll work to 9 tonight. See you tomorrow at 6 a.m. Fuck that. Yeah. If I'm going to do that, I'm going to be day trading.
Yeah. It's a different type of it's a different mindset in that area for work. I would almost akin it to the 1950s and 1940s, 50s with America, right? And just the grind of individuals, But on the same side, you're also seeing a lot of those, like we've talked about this in China, right? And again, Asia is a huge, Russia's Asia, right? So right. Asia's a big area. Australia is part of like the Asian, it's not part of the Asian continent, but it is part of like the, what do they call it? It starts with the, I'm going to get Aston, Pact, the Asian Pact. What is it? ASEAN. I think it's called ASEAN.
Oh yeah, the ASEAN.
Yeah, the ASEAN Pact, where you literally have a lot of the Oriental culture part of that, but it also includes Australia because it's around in that same region. So right. It's real interesting to sit there, and you see a lot of Orientals over in. Is Orientals? Is it like saying?
I don't. I'll just stay away from that one.
Dang. If no offense to any of our people of the Asian descent, forgive me if I am offending you by saying that. It was not my.
I don't think you offended anybody. I don't think anybody cares about that anyway.
Well, if they do, no offense. If in the future they pull this up like they pulled this up with what's his name, Joe Rogan and a lot of these other people. My bad. It was not my intention to offend anybody in that sense, right? But in the same sense, though, you do see this group of people that really do business tight, and they have a different way of doing business. They grind, like they stay in the office for hours and they grind. And
so anyway, Pedro, when you
Market.
finished up BTC earlier, I was going off on a side note about a topic that we've talked about in the past, and it's on the political front and all that, but it is the cities across the U.S. blowing it and seeing a pushback against kind of the liberal progressive prosecutors and policies allowing basic unrestricted drug use and shoplifting and all sorts of problems. And the cities that experienced it, New York, Chicago, San Francisco, Vancouver, Minneapolis, you name them, they all suffered in it. We didn't really ever bring the topic of Miami into it because they've had a pretty booming economy. But a while ago, meaning like five or 6 years ago, Miami saw a problem with South Beach, and they saw the very similar things other cities were going, and South Beach became kind of a shit show. And
didn't Trade de Agua start to go down there as well?
Yeah, they had all sorts of issues when that type of stuff. And so I just saw this article in Bloomberg. It reminded me to talk about this. Is that now the best place to shop and to be seen is no longer in South Beach in Miami. It's out in the suburbs. They lost it. Miami lost it. There's this, it's called the Design District, Miami Lux. The Design District, set in the middle of urban sprawl, now ranks the priciest U.S. retail destinations. There's this whole article on Bloomberg about how the policies of the inner cities, or the big cities, in moving towards one side of the political spectrum very heavily, have once again blown it for the businesses there. And it's a big problem we've seen all across the nation. It's one of the reasons why Mr. Trump got reelected. In inner cities, a lot of them are doubling down. They're like Chicago doubled down on it and got rid of an ineffective mayor and brought in an even more liberal and progressive mayor. And businesses are leaving. I challenge me here, striking right now, challenge the Trump administration to come up with some way to stop this nonsense. Now, the immigration issue will bring part of that problem to a halt. Getting rid of all the new people that don't have jobs or need to be on benefits or just out there begging, we'll get rid of it. We'll get rid of part of this problem. The other problem is getting rid of the idea that cities who take a lot of federal tax dollars can, just like Harvard is turning that around and using it politically, that cities will take those tax dollars either directly or indirectly by taking it and not using it for political things, but by indirectly using it by not having to use their own, or using their own money, but then this federal money funds other things, to get their shit in order. And I think Trump should go to the cities and say, look, we're not sending you any more money whatsoever for any reason until you address these problems. Put people in jail, get them off the street, whatever it is, and stop this nonsense. Because Chicago is suffering, and I see it. I spent time down here in Florida, and it's a completely different world here than in a big city. It's just, if you just read the news, it's completely different. You talk to people, there's people here that don't lock their houses and things like that. And I realize that this is resort community is a unique area. But it's mind-boggling, and if we can add that to the list of things the Trump administration needs to fix, then that would be a good thing. But Miami, you blew it. You blew it. People are driving to the suburbs instead of walking down whatever the name of the street is in South Beach to all the fancy joints.
Is it like, it's funny because I have a friend of mine who's going down there right now. He's actually getting ready. He was calling me up and like, hey, going down there, gonna do. I was like, all right, cool, because I talked to him quite a bit. And there was some, like, I was looking to maybe get some gold or something, like you could, anyways. The reason I bring this up is because he's going down to Miami, and you're saying that Miami is like ghetto now, like
not ghetto, but the merchants were pushing back, saying, hey, if you don't clean this up and make it the glamorous district again by knocking off the homeless people, getting lit on the drug problems and the immigration issues, we're going to move. We're going to move. And they did. It's just like in Chicago, stores are leaving the Magnificent Mile and going elsewhere. And in Miami, they've moved out of South Beach, and they went to the suburbs. and they have fewer problems in the suburbs because you need a car to get around in the suburbs. You can't just show up.
Walk and be like, hey, I mean, you gotta. That's why kids have bikes.
Right.
They got to do some distance.
Pedro, we're getting long in the tooth here.
Being summoned.
Yeah. That's correct. 100% correct on that.
And it's all good. Your wife can summons you. Tell Mrs. Striking and Striking Jr. Congrats to Striking Jr. again. And
yeah, did that guy shit respond to me? No.
Oh, it's funny. Why are you upset that he didn't? He's a kid, man. He ain't kid no more though.
No,
right?
he had. They put out this little group put out some social media posts that I mentioned. Hey, you took money. They went around and solicited money for sponsors to help pay for that whole rocket thing, and they got some. They got a couple of corporate sponsors. Not a lot, but $1,000 defrays the cost of that stuff. And they put out some social media thanking the sponsors, and they made a spelling mistake in one of the sponsors' names.
You don't mess that up.
And I was like, hey, you need to fix that right away. Turns out they did. He did get back to me saying they fixed it.
Good. Yeah, you can mess up on grammar stuff, and people make fun of you a little, whatever, right? But you mess up on a sponsor's name, that's like, it's like, bro, like, come on, like other things you can mess up. There are certain things that you don't mess up in life. What makes you money, what keeps money coming in, right? Meaning you don't mess up on your job, you don't mess up on your banking stuff. This is like you just don't mess up on that, right? Things that make you money. And guess the problem is like other people sit there and go, wait, weren't you part of that? And didn't you guys do that? And it's like, oh yeah, right. But I mean, this is just a college project. It ain't gonna be that big of a deal, which is cool though. Dude, your kid's rocket scientist, bro. That's cool.
It's crazy. It's crazy talk. That's what it is.
It's amazing talk. That means you did a good job, Dad. I mean, good job, Dad. I mean, you'll never be thanked. Nobody will ever sit there and say, great job, we're proud of you. He'll never sit there and say, until he is in his 40s and going, damn, my dad did this. But that ain't going to come. You'll be in your late 70s.
Right.
What's up?
Yeah,
he was right.
I remember the age I was when I was like, oh, my dad was right.
Yeah,
I think I was like 3. I was like, oh, dude's right all the time.
You said 3 or 30?
3. But I had to keep learning that lesson over and over and over again.
It's funny. All right, my friend, I know you're busy. Any last words? And sorry again for being late.
It's all right. We had a good show today.
Yeah, we did. It was good. It was fun. And then I derailed it with all my ADD talk. So
wouldn't be the show without it, Pedro. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining Pedro and I today. We really appreciate you watching this. If you're watching on the replay later today, please drop a comment. Pedro and I read the comments. We'll get back to you. If you got a question, let us know. If not, we'll see you next week here for the morning open at 7:30 Eastern time. Not Eastern Standard Time, all you people. It's Eastern Daylight Time. So there's still counties in Indiana that are still on Standard Time, and it screws it. I used to live in one, and it's a pet peeve of mine. It screws everyone up. Thanks everybody for joining. The man in the box over here is Pedro Garcia, the crypto chart analyst. My name is Tom, otherwise known as Striking here. So glad to have hosted another episode of this great show. We'll see you on Monday.